Alright, first try. Strike. Home run. Maybe, baby. So, yes, this is my page, my first video. Let's just see how far I can blabber. This always helps. That's one of my vices. So I call myself Techno Dutchie on Facebook. My real name is Renko. I live in the Netherlands, Amersfoort. I'm in a clinic for substance abuse. I came here without a problem, and they placed me in the wrong place. I needed help with that, and not being helped with a problem. I got a couple of t-shirts printed, and it's called Quintus here. I said I came to Quintus and all I got was this lousy addiction. They don't like it when I walk around with that shirt around here, but them, because they're a bunch of, not all of them, but you know, there's a lot of incapable people living here. So, and you know, that's part of being truth, and that's what I'm trying to do, speak my truth. And they can think they're capable, but they're not. So that's where I am. I found out on Facebook you can make this videos now. Probably could do it for a long time already, but a friend of mine told me shit was like you put them on your something line and they're only there for 24 hours. And so as smart as I am, I made a group, placed them there, and well, they don't stay there for 24 hours. They stay there until you delete them. I'm like, you know, if you want to become a member, you become a member. And I still have to change that, because now anybody can become a member, and I wouldn't like my dad, for instance, to see me talk about, you know, all the things he hates me to talk about. Like what I said, the falsification of history is really something that bothers me. Perusian educational system that indoctrinates the Western world, makes us very obedient. It's a whole good story about it. Started in 1701, the Perusian Empire to 1913. They had a big problem with their in the Napoleon Wars. They had a big problem with their soldiers. Only have like a 2% kill rate, and this was a little after the musket rifles, you know, that take like 5 minutes to load or something, were replaced with more repetitive rifles, so you could, you know, load quicker, kill quicker. That was the idea, but the generals were like, hey, why don't we have a 2% kill rate? What can we do about it? So the Perusian you know, fat cats came together, and they invented the educational system like we know it now in the West. Like in America, that's the they got 100% implementation of that system. In Holland, yeah, right out of my finger, I would say 60% of that educational system. So that's why in Holland we're a little less nationalistic. Like, we're not going like Holland. Yeah, when we're playing soccer or any other thing that's, you know, being put out through media that makes us excited about sports. But like in the USA, you know, USA, every other day you hear USA whenever there's some kind of rally, you know, and that's because they are really indoctrinated. Think about what it does with your mind as from a small child. Every morning you pledge allegiance to the flag, put your hand on your heart and pledge allegiance to the flag, which until 1942, by the way, they did the, where's the freaking camera? Well, I gotta put it further away then. Well, anywho, you get my drift. They did the Sieg Heil. They did the, they call it the Bellamy salute. You're right. Let's just call it the Hitler salute, or just call it Sieg Heil. But they used that in Rome, you know, with Heil Caesar and a bunch. They used it with Hitler, Heil Hitler, and they did it until 1942 with the educational system. And if I am not mistaken, I should have, here we go. Well, first off, this is, let me see, fuck it, this is Holland, right over there, and then this was the Perusian Empire, And what they did in the United States until 1942, and of course I can't find it right now. Can I pause this thing? Well, let's see what happens when I press this button. So yes, it worked. So until 1942, when America, got involved with World War II in 1942, they Pearl Harbor, and they were like, fuck it, now we gotta strike back. But until 1942, so the war in Europe was already going on for 3 years, I think, almost close to 4. But until they entered the war, this is how they would pledge allegiance to the flag. Kind of makes you wonder, right? So yeah, that's the Perusian educational system. Falsification of history. A good example is the pyramids, the Giza pyramids, the big ones, and the Sphinx. I'm of the belief that they were already there, and they've been there for a very, very long time, before the first dynasty in Egypt started, around 3000 BC, like 4,500 years ago or something. Look on many websites, they tell you that the Sphinx was built around 2550 BC by Khufu, but then in, I don't know when, sometime there was this not an official Egyptologist, but John Anthony West, and they all thought he was, like a crackpot, because he had all these weird, theories. But at a certain point, he took with him a Boston geologist, and this geologist, by the name of Robert Schoch, waited until he got his, I think that he got his tendency or something. That means that they cannot fire him anymore, and he's set for life. He has a job for life as a professor, professing anywhere where he wants to profess. But he was like, if I go and do this study, and I agree with the study that stuff is much older, before I get my tendency, before I get my, hey, you go, here you go, you cannot get fired anymore, and I come up and go start telling that the Sphinx is maybe much, much older than there is in all the school books, and what all Egypt people and teachers and professors teach every children in the world about the pyramids and about the Sphinx. I want to get my tendency first, so they cannot fire me. Anywho, he went when he got the tendency. He went to Egypt with Anthony West, and they got into this enclosement where the Sphinx is, and he didn't even look at the Sphinx. He was looking at what it was built out of. It was because it was, well, it was built. It was built. All the block. It was a big piece of rock, and they took out the rocks, and the big rock in the middle, that became the Sphinx. But it's all one part, and all the blocks they took out, they used to build the temple of the Sphinx or something. But he didn't look at the Sphinx. He looked at the sides of the embankment, and he noticed that it was eroded. And because he's a geologist and he knows a shitload about stones and the way they erode, it was always thought that the erosion was because it's the Sahara. There's a lot of winds and sandstorms. It is sand erosion. Now, sand erosion, I looked into it a little bit myself. I'm gonna try to figure out how this works, so I can maybe put pictures in it. But anywho, if I get any viewers, well, fuck it, I'll do it anyway. Sand erosion goes from left to right. It's horizontal. Yeah. Water erosion goes from vertical, goes from up to down. Yeah. And then you have water erosion, like when something is overflowing, like the Nile. It overflows a lot of times. That's why it's so green. If you take satellite pictures, you look down, you see the Nile and this big green strip around it, and then you got desert again. Why? Because no water in the desert. But this erosion was a different kind of erosion. It was a precipitation erosion, so it had to be made by rain. Yeah, and that's funny because 4,500 years ago, when the swing was being built, the Sahara was a fucking desert. Yeah, and it did not rain a lot, if at all. And to get that kind of erosion, precipitated rain, water erosion, it has to rain for at least like 1,000 years. It has to be very wet for 1,000 years. Last time it was that wet in that area of the world was about 12,500 years ago, 10,500 BC, right at the end of the Ice Age. And the Ice Age went like that. I'm going to show you some graphs maybe later on when I do another video. But the temperature just went ballistic. Yeah, something happened. Probably what happened was either a pulsar or a meteor hit the North Atlantic ice sheet, and it was big. North Atlantic, fuck that. It went all the way to the Alps. Sometimes it was like 5 kilometers high. Can you imagine 5 kilometers in length? Yeah, let's say 3 on average, and that's all the way from the Alps to the Alps, whatever, all the way to the North Pole and all around it, and all the way in America, like the half of Northern America was covered in this big ass piece of ice, and it disappeared really quickly. Yeah, so what happened probably was a meteor hit it. Yeah, a lot of this ice just, vaporized. Yeah, a lot of chunks were thrown out, big fucking chunks, because they got the I don't know what you call it again, but they found all these impact size, tens of thousands of them near Florida, the base there called Carolina base. Well, anyhow, they got the LiDAR nowadays. I can go from heel to bench really quick, huck the tuck. But all these chunks of ice just made really big craters everywhere. But also, a lot of this stuff just vaporized. When a meteor enters the atmosphere, it compresses the air because it goes from a vacuum. All of a sudden, it goes through our stratosphere or whatever. That thing that very thin layer that protects us. While going 1,000 miles an hour through space, with all these meteorites, floating around every once in a while, on this intergalactic 42, baby, don't panic, intergalactic freeway. We get smashed. Yeah, and we probably hit that meteor, and it's never one. It breaks up, so it, multiple hits you get, of course. A lot of vaporizing, all that vapor, all that, those unbelievable amounts of water ice, yeah, went up in the air in condensed form, covered the whole fucking planet, and first temperature went way up, yeah, and then in really not even in a geological blink of an eye, but in a really short amount of time, temperature dropped drastically, yeah, and it started raining. It started raining for a very long time. Right around the time, exactly around the time that the erosion of the Sphinx became apparent. So those two things coincide, and then they go again. It's a coincidence, la di da da. But Robert Schoch, the attendant geologist of the University of Boston, if I'm not mistaken, Schoch. It's CSHOCH. Robert Schoch. You can look it up. And then look up the word Sphinx. Robert Schoch Sphinx. You get right there. And because he's a professor, he made the papers. They got peer reviewed, and now it's a scientific fact. It has been established that it's water erosion. They're not really bringing it out that it's, then it has to be 12,500 years old, because that would really, fuck things up for a lot of people who studied their whole lives. saying that the Sphinx is only 2,500 years or 4,500 years old. So that's one part of falsification of history. Yeah, look at me go, talk for 15 minutes. I thought I'd make a quick video. Ah, man. Jesus. Alright, I'm gonna stop now. That's much more than enough for an intro. Thank you. Welcome if you watched all the way to the end. Welcome anyhow, but thanks if you watched all the way to the end. And yeah, you can expect this. Me rambling and bambling and going from to point. Yeah, and I made this board. This is gonna be my stay on point board. Which is another funny thing. I talked about it already on the Facebook thingy. Stay on point. That's what you gotta do. You have a board with points on it, and you stay on point. Just like the word, I like this one very much. Understanding. Yeah, understanding has to do with you gotta understand stuff. Yeah, and that came from when they're building something. Yeah, you're standing under the ceiling or under the roof or ceiling or whatever shit above you, and you're standing under it. You better be understanding how well it's built, so it doesn't come crashing down on you. So that's what the word understanding comes from. Yeah, I love little wordplay thingies, but yeah. All right, well, thanks for joining. And like I say, in times of global deceit, speaking the truth becomes a revolutionary act. And I think that is an Orwellian uitspraak. And there we go with my preferences. All right, peace out.